All right, so let's start it up. I want you to see. I ain't got time for that. So this is not a cheap car. This is a premium trim, premium plus, whatever it's called. $49,000. That's the starting price. And for that, you get no touchscreen. This is 2024, people. Every car should have a touchscreen by now. And it's not even that big. Look at how tiny this is. This is a 12-inch wide, but it's only like 3 inches tall. So it's kind of tiny. Plus, it's way over there. Now, this is maybe a little bit nitpicky. Some people like this split console cover. I do not like it. I want to be able to open this up, reach in and grab stuff. So when you open this up, this door is in the way. And to be able to really reach in, you have to open both anyway. So I don't think this is an advantage. I think it's kind of gimmicky, but it's annoying. I want it to just open up, like this whole thing open up like a normal console, and you can just reach in there and grab whatever you want. And look how tiny it is in here. The console, there's not a lot of space. I'm not sure what's underneath this. It's definitely not horsepower. So another thing that I noticed while I was driving this car on the highway is that the lane keep is obnoxious. And I've been in a lot of cars that have that, and they just kind of guide you, and they'll center you back up in the lane. This car is like a pinball effect. When you start to cross the line, it bounces you back the other way. It would push you over into the lane adjacent to you, like all the way across that line. So it's not like it keeps you in the middle, it just bounces you off, and then all of a sudden you're in a different lane. I understand that people have to have this lane keep thing because people don't know how to drive nowadays. It kind of kicks in a little sooner than I would like, and it forces the wheel out of your hand, which I don't like. Dude, what is this? Look at how big this is, dude. And it's flimsy. It's like plastic. This is a piece of plastic. It's just, you know, there's a word for this. Gaphus. Hang on, while I wait till it lets me put it in drive. There we go. I'm telling you, that 3-second delay right there means the difference between for making a green light and not making a green light. See, if I'd have been 3 seconds earlier, I'd have got in front of that car. It's all that shifter's fault. Not only can you not move the gear shift into drive quickly, but it's flimsy. I feel like if you just leaned over your seat to grab something on the floor and caught this the wrong way, it would just break off. It does feel that cheap. All right, so when you want to put it in park, the instinctive thing is you just slide this forward, right? Well, no, that puts it in reverse. You also have to slide it up and then over. It's clunky. And look here, if you put it in drive, just like that, turn it off, it puts itself in park. But now when you start it, move gear selector to park to start vehicle. So you have to fiddle with this thing to put it in park, and then you can start it. I'm really unhappy with the gear shifter situation in this car. I think Mazda had the elderly in mind when they designed the turn signal noise. This sounds like a couple of chipmunks having a fight in the dash. Now, this does have a pedal misuse alarm, so if I push the brake and the gas at the same time, it makes a noise, but... There you go. All right, so it's not fast, but at least it's noisy. The engine in this thing has a weird harmonic in the higher RPM range. It's an inline 6, it should be silky smooth, but it isn't. It's got some sort of a weird noise to it. I don't know if that's intentional or what, but you have the stereo on just at a normal level and you punch the gas, you can absolutely hear the engine over the stereo. You hear that? What is that noise? It vibrates the seat, the floor. Everything is vibrating when you do that. All the noise is from the front. It's not the exhaust. It's like a loud, noisy, rough engine. It's like they could have done just a normal V6 or something. Who knows why they do what they do? It's a mystery. Now, if you notice, I'm in sport mode right now, and it still does the start-stop. Most cars, if you put it in sport mode, it kills the start-stop feature. Like, that's probably one of the first things I do when I get in a car is I turn it on to sport, so I don't have to deal with that start-stop crap. And as a matter of fact, I don't see a button to defeat the start stop. Oh, hang on, it's down here. I stop. Is it I stop? I stop. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. This thing does have an off-road mode, which is awesome. I really love that they've actually done at least a little something for off-road. Although this thing did come with like all-season radials, so not even remotely capable off-road as far as tires go. They could have maybe done an all-terrain option. I didn't see that on Mazda's website where you could get all-terrain tires. So if you want to go camping with this thing and there's some fire roads, or if you're really worried about you know, off-road capability, you'll have to replace the tires because they're not meant for that. And it also has hill descent. So I couldn't tell you, I didn't get a chance to test it in this car in an actual off-road situation. They don't always work, but at least they made an attempt. This is the biggest disappointment with this car, is the seat. It is terrible. There's not enough adjustment. The bottom cushion is too small. The seats are extremely uncomfortable. I like to be able to recline a little bit and have my legs supported in the front. Now, as you can see, I am not tall at all, and look at how much distance there is. The front of the front seat does not get up under my knees at all. This is all the way up. I know you think that's probably ridiculous, but what it adds up to is all of my weight is focused right back here. And on a 3-hour drive, by the end of the drive, I had pins and needles in my backside. Some cars you have a lumbar and you can move it up and down and kind of get it where it fits your back. Well, no, this one is just all the way down here. It's like right behind my butt. So basically, if I push the lumbar support forward all the way, then it makes the seat even shorter. I cannot imagine how uncomfortable this seat would be for a tall person. Compared to my F-150, look at the difference.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Comes all the way up under my knees right here. I don't think I would want to take this car on a long drive. Any longer than a couple hours anyway. So overall, the CX-90 isn't that bad of a car. However, I cannot get over how uncomfortable the seat is. That was the biggest gripe for me, and there's no way to fix that or to get past it. So the CX-90 might not be for you. I would get in one and drive it for a little bit, or just sit in the seat for a little while and see how uncomfortable or comfortable it might be for you. But I think there are some better options out there, especially for the price. So I appreciate you guys watching this whole video all the way to the end, and I will definitely see you soon in the next video. It's just so comfortable. I don't know, why wouldn't you just buy one of these?